You don't arrive somewhere after you die. You open your eyes and you're already inside. No transition, no waiting, no silence. The moment your last breath leaves your body, something happens. Immediately. Your body is still there. People are still around you, but you're not where they are anymore. And Enoch saw it. Not as a vision, not as a metaphor. He was taken, removed from this world, and brought to a place that was already full. The same Enoch referenced in Genesis. The same name quoted in the New Testament. Not empty, full. Billions of souls. Some silent, some crying out, some already in something that looked like punishment. And it wasn't chaos, it was organized, divided, structured like a system that had been running long before you were born. The Ethiopian Bible preserved the only detailed account of this place. Not poetry, not symbolism, a map. A system that assigns every soul the moment it arrives. And once you're placed, you don't move. But here's what makes it worse. According to Enoch, that assignment doesn't begin after death. It reveals something that was already decided. And what he saw wasn't random. It followed a structure no one expected. 4 chambers, 4 completely different experiences happening right now. One where souls rest, one where voices don't stop, one where nothing happens, and that's the punishment, and one where there is no light at all. And one detail doesn't fit. Enoch didn't describe them like a prophet. He described them like someone who walked through them. He saw where each soul was placed. He saw who controlled the entrance. An angel, not waiting for judgment, not observing, working, right now. And what he describes inside those chambers changes one thing most people never question. You don't decide where you go after you die, and it's already happening to you. The last thing your body does is exhale. Not dramatically, not the way it looks in films, just less. A slow release, a quiet collapse that happens before the mind even understands it's over. Your chest falls. The room is still there. The people around you are still there. But something is already different. No sound follows you. No voice calls your name. And in that exact moment, not after, not eventually, the separation begins. Not a journey, not a tunnel, a cut. One instant you are inside your body, the next you are standing somewhere else, not floating, not drifting, standing. And something is already there with you. You don't see it clearly at first, but you feel it. Presence, awareness, attention. Enoch doesn't describe the soul leaving. He describes it being received. There's a difference. Leaving means movement. Being received means arrival into something that was already expecting you, already prepared, already in place. And according to the Book of Enoch, preserved for centuries in the Ethiopian tradition while the Western world erased it, that moment is not gradual. It is immediate. It is exact. And it does not allow reversal. No pause, no negotiation, no time to understand what just happened. Nothing about that moment can be undone. Every person who has ever died, every voice that has ever gone silent, passed through this same instant. The exhale, the cut, the reception, and then something else happens. Something Enoch describes with a precision that feels almost invasive. The soul does not arrive disoriented. It arrives aware, not confused, not searching, aware. As if some part of it had already been moving in this direction long before the body stopped. And that awareness is not comforting, because the moment you recognize where you are, you also recognize why. Not in words, not in thoughts, but in certainty. A recognition that doesn't ask permission. A recognition that doesn't explain itself, only settles, like stepping into a place you've never seen, and somehow knowing you've been heading toward it your entire life. And there is no appeal to that recognition. No argument, no correction, only placement. Not random, not delayed. Placed. And once that happens, there's no returning to what you were. Because what waits next isn't a judgment. It's something that was already in motion before you arrived. And by the time you realize where you are, you're already too close to leave. The first chamber is not far from that moment. And what it contains isn't peace. At least, not in the way you've been taught to imagine it. You are not alone. That's the first thing you notice. Not light, not darkness, not silence. people, souls, more than you can process, and they are not together. They are separated, not by walls, not by distance you can measure, but by something you feel the moment you look at them. Something already decided this. Long before any of them arrived, you move, or something moves you, closer to the edge of the first group, and what you see doesn't match what you expected. They're not glowing, they're not singing. They look relieved, not euphoric, not transformed, just no longer carrying something they had carried for a very long time. You don't hear it, you feel it. The absence of weight, the absence of resistance. You watch them, and something in you responds, something that wants to be there. But you're not there. You're still standing between, and that space between, Enoch describes it, is not neutral. It presses on you. It doesn't let you pretend. Because in that space there is no performance, no version of yourself you constructed for other people, no story you told about who you were, only what you actually are. And that is what determines which direction you move. Not a verdict delivered from outside, a recognition that comes from inside. The soul sees itself, clearly, without distortion, for the first time, and moves accordingly. Now look at the second group. They are not far from the first. Physically, if that word even applies here, they are close, but experientially they might as well be in a different universe. These souls are not silent, not restful. They are aware of the distance between themselves and the first group. They can see it. They know exactly what separates them, and that visibility, that precise, unobstructed view of what they don't have, is part of the condition, not imposed, not explained, felt, constantly, like a tension that never releases, like something pulling in a direction they can't follow, and nothing interrupts it, nothing softens it. Enoch doesn't describe this as cruelty. He describes it as structure, where every soul experiences exactly what its nature produces, not punishment designed from outside, consequence generated from within. No one tells them where they belong. They already know. The moment they see themselves, they understand. And that understanding doesn't arrive slowly. It's immediate, complete, final. The division isn't created in that moment, it's revealed, like something that had always been true, finally becoming visible. There are 4 of these divisions, 4 chambers, 4 completely different states of existence happening simultaneously. Right now, and only one of them holds what most people spend their entire lives hoping for. The others don't wait to disappoint you. They show you exactly why you're there. Enoch doesn't introduce them all at once. He walks through them one by one, as if the order matters, as if seeing them out of sequence would change something, soften something that needs to be felt in full. So we follow the same order he followed. The first chamber. The light here is not bright. It doesn't announce itself. It simply exists, steady, consistent, uninterrupted. The souls in this place are not celebrating. They are not in ecstasy. They are at rest in a way that has no equivalent in human experience, because every form of rest you've ever felt, sleep, stillness, the end of a long day, carried inside it the knowledge that it would end, that tomorrow would come, that the weight would return. This rest carries no such knowledge. It is permanent, not because time stopped, but because the thing that made rest necessary, the resistance, the struggle, the accumulated cost of being human, is gone, completely. And even here, something is missing, not peace, finality. Enoch describes these souls as waiting, but not anxiously, not impatiently, waiting the way something waits when it already knows the outcome, settled, certain. This is the chamber most people imagine when they think of what comes after, but it is only one of 4. The second chamber. This one is harder to describe, not because Enoch is vague, because what he describes is specific in a way that's difficult to hear. These souls are also waiting, but the quality of that waiting is entirely different. They are aware of the first chamber, aware of the distance between where they are and where those souls rest. And that awareness does not fade. It does not soften with time. It remains constant, unrelenting, like a frequency that never drops. They cry out, not in the way a person cries in grief, where exhaustion eventually brings silence. This doesn't exhaust, it continues. And what they cry out for isn't escape, it's understanding. A request that will not be answered until the final judgment, for an explanation of why. Why here? Why this? Why them? And the silence that answers them is not cold. It is simply the structure doing what the structure does, holding them exactly where their nature placed them. Here the account pauses, not in the text, but in the weight of it. 2 chambers described, 2 more remaining. And what comes next doesn't ask you to listen. It removes the ability to hear anything at all. The 3rd chamber. If the 2nd chamber is defined by sound, the 3rd is defined by its absence. No crying, no voices, nothing. And at first, that might sound like relief. It isn't. The souls here are not at peace. They are not resting. They are isolated in a way that goes beyond physical separation. There is no awareness of other souls, no sense of connection to anything outside themselves, just existence without context, being without belonging. Alive, if that word applies, but severed from everything that made life meaningful. No past that comforts, no future that approaches, only the present, endlessly. Enoch describes this chamber with fewer words than the others, as if even language struggles to fill a space that was built around emptiness, and that restraint says more than description could, because some conditions don't need to be explained to be understood. You already know what it would feel like to exist and mean nothing to anything. You've felt versions of it in this life. Imagine that, without end. And nothing in that space reminds you that you ever mattered. The 4th chamber. Enoch enters this one last, and what he describes here is not dramatic in the way you might expect. There is no fire described in elaborate detail, no theatrical suffering. What he describes is darker than that, darkness itself, not as absence of light, as presence, a darkness that has weight, that presses, that is aware of the souls inside it. And those souls, they are not crying out like the 2nd chamber. They are not silent like the 3rd. They are fixed, positioned in something that Enoch can only describe by what surrounds them. No light reaches this place. No sound from the other chambers enters here. It is completely sealed. And nothing that enters this chamber ever moves again. And the souls inside it are not waiting for judgment. According to Enoch, they already received it, before the final judgment even begins. What happens to them after is a separate question. One that requires understanding something most people have never been told about how judgment actually works. You're not waiting for that judgment. You're already inside it. Most people place judgment in the future, a final moment, a great assembly, a verdict delivered at the end of everything. And that moment does exist. Enoch doesn't deny it. But what he saw, what the Ethiopian text preserves with unsettling clarity, is that something else is already happening, not later, now, because the judgment isn't only coming, part of it is already done. Look again at what you just saw in those 4 chambers. Souls already placed, already experiencing, already fixed in conditions that reflect exactly what they are, not what they will become, what they already are. Nothing about that placement felt delayed. Nothing about it felt undecided. It didn't arrive with explanation. It arrived with certainty. And that certainty didn't come from outside. It was already there. The moment the soul recognized where it stood, it understood. No voice needed to declare it. No verdict needed to be spoken. The placement was the verdict. And it happened instantly. Not after review, not after deliberation. The moment of arrival was enough because nothing was missing. Every choice, every action, every moment where something was known and ignored, every moment where something was known and followed, all of it already present, already complete, already producing its result. The soul doesn't arrive to be evaluated. It arrives already evaluated. And what follows isn't a process, it's a continuation. That's where everything changes. Because if that moment only reveals what was already formed, then the formation is happening here. Not in some distant future. Here, in the decisions that feel small, in the patterns that repeat when no one is watching, in the reactions you don't question anymore, in the habits that stopped feeling like choices, not who you say you are, not who you intend to be. What you are becoming, slowly, consistently, without interruption. And that movement is not neutral. It leans, it builds, it accumulates in one direction or the other. You don't feel it happening, not all at once, but it doesn't stop, and nothing about it resets. Every decision carries forward. Every pattern reinforces itself. Every ignored signal becomes easier to ignore the next time, until something in you stabilizes, not temporarily, structurally. And when that structure is set, it doesn't need to be judged. It only needs to be revealed. That's what Enoch saw. Not a future verdict deciding your fate, a present reality exposing it. The final judgment doesn't reverse that direction, it confirms it. Which means the question isn't what will be decided about you at the end. The question is what is already being decided right now. In the life you are living, in the choices you keep repeating, in the version of yourself that is becoming harder to interrupt. Because the longer something repeats, the more it becomes what you are. And what you are is what gets placed, not debated, not reconsidered, placed. And once that direction is fully formed, there is nothing left to adjust, only somewhere to arrive. And there is a point where all of this converges, not an idea, not a force, a presence, something that stands at the threshold between what you were and where you are about to be placed. It was there before the first soul arrived. It will still be there when the last one does. And its role in what happens next is not passive. It doesn't observe. It doesn't wait. It acts. And what it does with a soul, the moment it arrives, is not what most people are prepared to face. His name appears in the text without introduction, no backstory, no explanation, just Uriel, as if Enoch expected you to already know, and in the tradition that preserved this account, that name carries weight. Uriel is not a guardian in the way people imagine. He does not protect, he does not comfort. He stands at the threshold, not as a symbol, present. Every soul that arrives, Uriel is already there, not approaching, not appearing, already there. Positioned at the exact point where arrival becomes placement, between what the soul was and where it is about to be. Enoch watches him, and what he notices is not power, not light, not presence in the way you expect. What he notices is attention, complete, unbroken. Nothing escapes it. Not because Uriel is searching, because nothing arrives hidden. The soul carries everything it ever was, and Uriel sees it, all of it, at once, every choice, every pattern, every moment where something was known and ignored, every moment where something was known and followed, not as memory, as fact, something inseparable from what the soul is. Uriel does not interpret it, he does not question it, he recognizes it, the same recognition the soul experiences within itself, only from the outside, and that recognition is enough. No delay follows it, no space where something could change, because nothing can change. What the soul is already complete. And what Uriel sees determines where it goes, not by decision, by alignment. The soul is not sent, it is placed where it already belongs, and Uriel is the point where that belonging becomes unavoidable. This is what most accounts leave out. There is a presence assigned to this exact moment, not a force, not a concept, a being, with a role that never changes, at a position that never moves, that changes what death actually is. You don't cross alone. You are received by something that already knows what you carry. And that knowledge does not observe, it acts, it places. And once that happens, there is no movement between outcomes, no crossing, no correction, only where you already fit. Uriel remains there, because there is nothing to adjust. Only the next arrival, and the next, and the next, uninterrupted. But the chambers were not built only for human souls. There is another presence here, another category. Beings that arrived before the first human ever did, not placed, bound, held, contained. And they are still there. Not in the same way, not in the same condition, but within the same structure. And their existence changes the weight of everything Enoch saw. Because if something this precise, this fixed, this permanent was built to contain them, then nothing that enters it is being handled lightly. Not them, and not you. They are not human. That's the first thing Enoch makes clear. Not fallen men, not corrupted souls. Something older. Something that existed before the first breath was ever given, before the first human choice was ever made. The Book of Enoch calls them the Watchers, and what they did was not a mistake, not a lapse, a rupture, a violation of the order they were part of. Something so fundamental that what holds them now had to be built differently. Enoch is brought close enough to see what containment looks like when the thing being contained was never meant to fall. They are not in the chambers, not in the divisions made for human souls. They exist within the same structure, but apart, bound, not restrained like a prisoner, held, fixed in a condition that does not shift, because what was taken from them was not comfort, not rest, not connection. What was taken was function, purpose, position, everything that defined what they were. These were not beings searching for meaning. They were the framework that gave meaning to everything else. And they abandoned it, not accidentally, not partially, completely, irreversibly. The text does not describe this with spectacle. It does not exaggerate. It doesn't need to. It describes them as held, awaiting a judgment that has not yet arrived, but whose outcome is already known. And that knowledge does not fade. It does not soften. It does not leave them. It remains constant, like something they cannot escape, because it is already part of what they are. And this is where the scale of what Enoch saw becomes difficult to ignore, because what holds them was already in place, already functioning, already containing beings of that magnitude before the first human soul ever arrived. Which means this is not something built in response to humanity. It existed before you, before sin as you understand it, before death. You did not trigger it, you entered it, and that changes the weight of everything. Because whatever can contain them does not approximate anything else. It does not guess, it does not adjust, it does not reconsider. It places exactly, without error, every time, not for them, and not for anyone who has come after. Which means this is not about whether the structure works. It already proved that. The question is where you fit inside it, and that answer was never going to be decided at the end. It was already written into the direction you've been moving your entire life, long before Enoch ever saw it. Jesus told a story, not about farming, not about forgiveness, a story about what happens after you die, and the details he chose to include are not symbolic. They describe something structured. Luke 16, a rich man dies, a poor man dies. They do not arrive in the same place. There is no delay, no transition described. They arrive and they are already separated, already in completely different conditions, already experiencing opposite realities, with full awareness of each other, and an uncrossable distance between them. The text gives that distance a name, a great gulf, fixed, not temporary, not waiting for review, fixed. The rich man can see